Ukraine's capital is under an air raid alert in anticipation of possible Russian airstrikes. Moscow is upping the ante after President Biden authorized Kyiv to use U.S.-supplied long-range missiles to attack Russia. The alert comes just hours after the U.S. State Department closed its Kyiv embassy due to, quote, specific information of a potential significant air attack. Meanwhile, Russia claims to have shot down 50 Ukrainian drones overnight near the Kursk region. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Holly Williams has the very latest.
Ukraine fired 8 American-made ATACMS into Russia, according to U.S. officials. A video posted online appears to show a launch, though we cannot independently verify it. The target was a military facility in the Bryansk region of southern Russia, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. U.S. officials believe the Russians may have shot down 2 of the missiles, which have a maximum range of close to 200 miles. President Biden gave permission to Ukraine to use ATACMS deep inside Russian territory 3 days ago. Before that, the Ukrainians were only allowed to use them against Russian forces in Ukraine because of concerns the powerful weapons could further escalate this conflict. The Kremlin, though, seems to be stoking fears of an escalation. Vladimir Putin approved a change in Russia's nuclear doctrine yesterday, lowering the threshold for a nuclear strike. A U.S. official called that, quote, irresponsible rhetoric. The U.S. decision to allow Ukraine a broader use of the ATACMS came after more than 10,000 North Korean troops were deployed to Russia, bolstering Moscow's forces. Some of those North Korean soldiers are now seeing combat, and North Korea has sent additional weapons to Russia, according to a South Korean official. Back to you.
Let's bring in CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata. Charlie, so what do we know about Russia's attack plan, and is the U.S. planning to offer any support to Ukraine's defense?
Well, Vlad, good morning to you. In terms of what we know, all we've been told is that to prepare for a significant air attack. You know, it's important to note that Holly and her team, I saw them this morning, they were hunkering down in a shelter. We don't normally do that. I mean, the air raid sirens go off all the time in Ukraine. You'd never come out. And the Ukrainians themselves tend not to go into bunkers or into shelters unless they're close to the front line. So that sort of underlines the seriousness of that. So a significant air attack, that could be cruise missiles, it could be aircraft, but it could be major, and especially in the city itself. So it's worth bracing for that. It's also notable that the U.S. embassy is closed down. In fact, most of the embassies have closed down in expectation of that Russian retaliation. Now, in a broader sense, what are they preparing for in terms of the Russian attack? The Russians have been pushing in the east. They want to retake Kursk. They've got the North Koreans there. As far as what the Americans can supply, look, what they've got there right now in terms of defense is all they can do. There hasn't been anything they can do at this point to bolster air defenses for what's already in the country, but they are desperate for it. I mean, they need a lot more than they have at the moment.
And Charlie, let me ask you about Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, who said that there is a new presidential drawdown authority for Ukraine being announced later today. What's that all about?
Yeah, so Vlad, you know, not to be too cynical about this, but these things happen all the time, right? These drawdowns. It has to do with the budget and how many weapons and delivery and stockpiles that the United States has bid for the Ukrainians, and this would be, I know it's 275 million is what will be announced in this particular package, which is a lot to you and me, but it's a fraction of about 7 billion in a drawdown that they're trying to take care of before like January 20th in terms of resupplying. So what are they? I've got it right here. You know, ammunition for the HIMARS, we've discussed that. Artillery, that's a huge one. Mortar rounds, unmanned aerial systems, anti-tank, small arms and ammunition, spare parts. I mean, it's big, but it's nowhere near what the Ukrainians need, and it's just a fraction of what's been promised by the United States to deliver. And, you know, we've also talked about the ATACMS and those launch pads. That would be the HIMARS, and they're going to need more of that and more artillery, because that's what they're facing now. They're facing an artillery war in the Kursk region. They're facing an artillery war in eastern Ukraine around Prokofsk. And there has been an acceleration on both sides, partly because of the political cycle that we're in, both the Russians and the Ukrainians aren't quite sure what this new administration is going to bring to this battle, and there's a sort of hurry-up offense. And again, I have to keep reminding people, but we're heading into the winter. There's always this surge in fighting before that happens.
All right, and Charlie, and can you update us on the landmine situation there?
Yeah, so this is notable, and it's worth pointing out here. So the United States is part. Well, actually, I have to make clear that the Defense Secretary didn't necessarily say that these landmines are part of this new PDA, the new drawdown. He didn't want to comment on that or whether it had been pre-planned. But as we all know, landmines are a sensitive issue, and these are anti-personnel. Okay, so the United States has supplied Ukraine with, mechanized landmines, things to take out tanks, anti-tanks, and in vehicles. These are specifically for personnel. And it's the first time we've seen this. So as it was pointed out, because they want to make clear that these particular landmines, they're called non-persistent. So they become inert after a preset period of time, anywhere from 4 hours to 2 weeks. They're electrically fused. When the battery dies, essentially, so does the landmine. Because, of course, the big controversy is that the whole place is littered with landmines. The Russians certainly have littered Ukraine with landmines, and they stick around, and they make victims of civilians, children who stumble upon them years, sometimes decades after they're laid. These are non-inert. In theory, they're supposed to switch off and lose their lethality within hours.
All right, Charlie Daggett reporting from the Pentagon for us this morning. Charlie, as always, we thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bud.